Alright, sorry for being a little late on this, but it was my birthday over the weekend, so I took some time to celebrate. I went to go see Fantastic Four, and it was pretty good. It's not like, oh, I'm not gonna say it. I'm not gonna say it. It wasn't fantastic. I'm sorry. I couldn't resist. I couldn't stop myself from making that pun. I'm sorry. It was just right there. It was too easy. Sometimes you gotta grab the low-hanging fruit. But no, it wasn't fantastic. But you know what? Probably the best Fantastic Four movie aside from The Incredibles. So, but that's not what we're here to talk about. That is besides the point. What we are here to talk about is the partner showcase that Nintendo aired last Thursday, and ultimately it was pretty good, pretty good. I know a lot of people found it underwhelming. I've seen a lot of reactions online, basically going, "Oh, was that it?" And it seems like a lot of people weren't super into it. And well, I totally get that. That reaction is super valid. I personally enjoyed the showcase a little more than I think a lot of people did, just because there was a lot of stuff that was like just for me. There's a lot of games in this showcase that scratch that particular part of my brain meat in a way that just releases the happy chemicals, just gets the dopamine flowing. And that got me way more on board than I think I would have been otherwise. Like, this show just hit enough of my buttons that I end up liking it way more than I thought I would. So, yeah, let's not beat around the bush and let's dive into it. Starting off with Monster Hunter Stories Free, and this one looked really good. This game got me really excited until I realized there wasn't any actual gameplay. It was all basically cinematics, and that sort of hampered my excitement a bit, but even still, I recently picked up the first two Stories games on sale, and I really enjoyed them. I sort of fell in love with them, mainly because I find them way more approachable than the regular Monster Hunter games, since they're these cute little RPGs. You don't really need to round up a hunting party of friends, or, try to go it alone and just keep wailing on these giant monsters. The story games feel like they were made for people like me who love the world and creatures of Monster Hunter, but maybe just don't mess with that core gameplay loop, which I never really did outside of Rise. I like Monster Hunter Rise was the only Monster Hunter game I ever quite connected with outside the story games. So for what it's worth, it's nice to just get more Monster Hunter stories for people like me who definitely want to engage with Monster Hunter, but maybe just kind of like in like a not quite in the same capacity as like the way a game like Monster Hunter Wilds necessarily wants you to engage with it, So I am excited for the prospect of another Monster Hunter Stories. I just do wish they would have shown some more actual gameplay. I do appreciate the kind of darker tone they seem to be taking. The characters are less chibi. The monsters look a lot closer to what they do in actual like mainline Monster Hunter games. It looks like this is gonna be like a little darker, which I like, though it still has that like nice cell shading, so it does look distinct from mainline Monster Hunter games. Like it going in a more serious direction without losing that unique identity that made Monster Hunter Stories feel distinct from mainline Monster Hunter in a visual and artistic perspective. So I'm looking forward to seeing what this game turns out to be. I hope they don't change up too much from the first two. I think Capcom has like a really nice formula going on with those, and I think just a nice trilogy of games in that style. And then maybe if you do a fourth one, then you can switch it up a little bit. That would be fine. But for this, I kind of hope they take that foundation that they laid down with Monster Hunter Stories 1, and then refined with 2. I kind of hope they just like further build upon it and further kind of grow it before they really decide to move on and do something like super crazy and new. Again, I'm sure they will eventually, but I think sort of just rounding off the trilogy with just like a really solid set of turn-based kind of monster collecting RPGs would be really nice. So looking forward to Monster Hunter Stories. I do hope we get a little more with actual gameplay. I do hope we actually get more of a gameplay trailer eventually, because again, these cinematic trailers, I said it before, they really don't excite me in a lot anymore, because it feels like it's only sort of representative of what the game is, or what the game could even be. So I do hope that eventually we get to a point where like these kind of trailers start to, they'll never be gone for good, right? They're very clearly something that the industry just loves for one reason or another. But I do hope we get to a point where like these kind of get less popular as time goes on. I hope we get to a point where like more games open up with gameplay trailers, and then maybe you can do your cinematic trailer down the line rather than having your cinematic trailer be what you start with. But regardless, even with that in mind, I'm still excited for Monster Hunter Stories Free, and I highly recommend you pick up the first two. They're actually on sale on Switch and Steam. They're a really nice time. I would highly recommend going through those and playing those. I honestly might replay them before Free comes out, which by the way is apparently coming out 2026. So I hope that's not too late into next year. I really don't want to be waiting super long for a game like this. Like, this feels like a game that like you should really only be showing off like 6 to 8 months before it's ready. Maybe that's just me, but I look at a kind of game like this and it's like, yeah, this is something that doesn't need to take like super duper long. This is something that doesn't need to take like, obviously, video game development is hard. Video game development can take a long time no matter what, but I feel like this is the kind of game that you want to have like a very short kind of hype cycle for, of just like, here's this game and it's out in a few months, right? Because it's Monster Hunter Stories Free. Like, again, we should know, unless you're doing like some crazy shakeup, which I kind of hope they aren't, you should kind of already know what the Monster Hunter Stories games are about. You should kind of already know what the vibe of this is. It's like, you're gonna be collecting monsters, you're going for an RPG, you're riding the Rathalos, maybe the story's a bit darker this time around, but otherwise, this should feel fairly familiar to Monster Hunter Stories fans, and so it's not something you really need to like hype up for like an entire year. But that's just my personal opinion, and I'm still looking forward to the game, so hopefully they are going to take a year between announcement and release. They have a steady stream of updates and news and just like keeping people in the loop on what this game is, how this game is progressing until it finally releases. So that's Monster Hunter Stories free. Looking forward to that. After that, we got Once Upon a Katamari, which is honestly looks amazing. Like this again, this looks like another one where it's like, hey, we're doing another Katamari. We're not really fucking with the style too much. We're not changing things to a drastic degree. And with Katamari, I think that's fine. I think Katamari has such a unique, distinct gameplay style, visual appeal, art style. Like it's so uniquely Katamari. Like Katamari is just an island unto itself in terms of gameplay and in terms of just everything about its vibe, that I'm honestly okay that they're not changing up too much. There is going to be like an online element, so you can just like run around with friends and you can create your own Katamari. And I'm like, oh, that sounds fun. Like a multiplayer Katamari feels like one of those things of like, oh yeah, no, that feels like a fairly obvious idea. I kind of don't get why they didn't do that before. But that's looking amazing. I'm sure the soundtrack will be beautiful if nothing else. But new Katamari game, I'm fucking down, man. Let's go. Give it to me. And that one's in October. That's October 24th. So that's only about 2 months away. So that's like a really nice that's what I mean like for something like Monster Hunter Stories. It's like I kind of don't want super long hype cycles. I'm down with just like, here's a game and it's coming in a few months. You don't have to wait super long, just like here it is. And I appreciate that. I appreciate whenever a publisher does that. Obviously don't rush a game out to market. You know, don't fucking like don't fuck a game over just so you can get it out by a certain release date. But if you know it's ready, if you have everything set to go and it looks like, okay, this is when it's gonna go gold, cool, this is when we'll announce it, this is when we'll, you know, get the hype cycle going, so that way it's not too long of a wait between announcement and release. I appreciate when that needle can be thread, so to speak, of just like, here's a game and it's out, if you kind of catch my drift there. But after that came Just Dance. I don't have much of an interest in Just Dance, but it's funny that these games are still going. Like, when was the first Just Dance? That's got to be all the way back in like 2010, right? Or even earlier, because that series, like as far as I remember, debuted on the fucking Wii, and it's just been going for decade and decade and decade. And 2009, yeah, no, it's been going on since 2009, and apparently it's just still going strong. It's always surprised me how much of the blue ocean market kind of went into mobile phones, went into online gaming, went into gaming outside of traditional console and PC structures, and yet some of these series like Just Dance have managed to survive. I just off the strength of that remaining market. I wonder if do these have mobile counterparts as well? I wonder if the big thing is like these have like mobile counterparts. Let's look that up. Just Dance mobile. Oh yeah, there is like an app for it. Just Dance Now. I wonder if that's maybe a big part of how this survives, is just like off the mobile app, and that kind of feeds back into the console games. But regardless, cool to see Just Dance is still going, I guess, for people who still enjoy that. We got songs from like Dua Lipa. We still got fucking Smash Mouth is in there, which is just very amusing to me, because like Smash Mouth was the new hip shit on the block when I was growing up. Like that was like a new band when I was a kid, and I'm fucking 26 now, so it's insane to me that Smash Mouth is still going on. Part of it, I wonder if maybe it's because it was a little bit of a meme in the 2010s. Like it and Shrek were both kind of memes in the 2010s, so I wonder if that's extended its life cycle a little bit. But it's also just funny to see kids today just still unironically singing Smash Mouth, unironically like still going along with it as well. So it can't just all be a meme, it can't just all be a joke. There has to at least be like some sincere love for Smash Mouth as a band and Smash Mouth as a like institution, as silly as that is to say, the institution of Smash Mouth. But so that's Just Dance. Sparking Zero is also getting a Switch 2 port. I mean, I enjoyed Sparking Zero. I don't really see a reason to double dip on the Switch version. I'm kind of at the point now where I'm like, I want them to either just do more DLC or just do like a Sparking Zero 2. I get the Smash Mouth 2, Jesus. I get the feeling it's probably going to be one of those like Xenoverse things where it's like, yeah, you got the first game and that one was good. That one figured out that one set the foundation for a lot of things. But Xenoverse 2, that's where they really got their stride. That's where they really hit their stride and figured shit out. And I get the distinct feeling Sparking Zero is going to be the same way, where it's going to be like, okay, we got the hiccups out with the first Sparking Zero. Now Sparking Zero 2, that's going to be the game you really wanted. That's going to be the game you wanted from the start, which admittedly can be a little bit frustrating, but you know, that's just the way sequels work. That's just the way a lot of game dev can work, where it's just like, hey, we kind of weren't sure the first time around, but now we have an idea of what we want to do. So I wouldn't be too bitter if a Sparking Zero came out, or Sparking Zero 2 came out and it was everything I wanted out of the first game. Then again, I don't know if I in particular will ever get anything get everything I want out of Sparking Zero, because I don't know, I want them to go crazy with Sparking Zero. I want them to bring in like the what if forms from Heroes. I want crazy shit like Golden Cooler and Super Saiyan Free Nappa and all the weird shit they did for the card games. And I don't know if they'll ever do that, but I want them to go like all in on the what ifs, which they like kinda did in Sparking Zero 1. You had the Gohan Black story, but it feels like they could have gone way crazier with that. And so I really hope for Sparking Zero 2, they go even harder on the what ifs and the potential like alternate sagas that could play out in these Dragon Ball stories. But that's Sparking Zero on Switch. Not really much else to say. After that came Plants vs. Zombies Replanted. I'm weird because I grew up in the exact right age for Plants vs. Zombies, yet I never got into it. It just passed me by. I didn't play the original when it was like a tower defense thing. I didn't play the hero shooter Garden Warfare. I just never got into Plants vs. Zombies. It just never hit me. I like the character designs. I like the idea of it. I'm looking forward to trying Replanted, but I was never really much of a Plants vs. Zombies kid. So this is going to kind of be my first exposure to the series. I'm looking forward to it, and I'm hoping that it is, it looks really good. It looks like a really fun little tower defense game. I just kind of hope that it opens my eyes, so to speak, Replanted. It's like, hey, this is why people love Plants vs. Zombies. I want this moment to be my fucking Danny DeVito, oh my god, I get it moment for Plants vs. Zombies. And so I'm looking forward to this. This one's also October. In fact, this is October 23rd. This is literally one day before Katamari, which is kind of funny to me. It feels like a lot of games are bunching up in October, right? I'm not going crazy because Pokemon's in October, Ghost of Yote's in October, Me and the Hollowers on Halloween, which, that one fits because it's like very like spooky Castlevania inspired. You got Plants vs. Zombies coming out in October, and now Katamari. It feels like there's so much. And the Switch 2 port of Borderlands 4 is coming out in October, and we'll get to that in a second. Like, why is October just like the super busy month? It used to be November, and then I guess because Call of Duty kind of took over in November. Battlefield's also coming out in October too. It's insane. It's wild to me that they just keep that they all decide that 1 month is just when they're gonna like load up and be like, okay, this is where we're all gonna release our fucking games now. Which, really sucks for anybody trying to like review or even talk about a lot of these games. I'm not at the point where I can do it professionally yet, but if I were a professional reviewer, I'd be kind of fucked. And I imagine a lot of the big outlets are gonna have like, I'm sure they have like multiple people running all these reviews. I imagine you can't have one person doing all of those games, but it's just, and Borderlands is, it's a Switch 2 port, so probably that'll be properly reviewed in September. But it's still insane just how many of those games are dropping in October. After that is, I kind of got off topic. After Plants vs. Zombies was EA Sports FC, which I'm, again, not a sports person, so I can't really talk much about it, but looks good. That's coming out in September. I'm sure that'll like hit with the kids who love soccer. But after that, this is where the direct really picked up for me, because we get Pac-Man World 2 Repack, and like, oh my god, I've been waiting for this forever. I really enjoyed the first Pac-Man World Repack. I enjoy Pac-Man World 2, the original on the GameCube. Getting a new version of it for modern platforms, it just feels like a dream come true. And it looks so good too. Like, it's obviously not gonna like break the bank in terms of graphic, but it's coming out September 26th, same day as fucking EA Sports, which is weird. And they're gonna be adding a few new levels for DLC, which I'm like, yeah, you always need your fucking DLCs, I guess. But at the same time, if they're gonna do it, I'm okay with it here, because it's just getting more of a game I love, and presumably as long as everything stays in from the original Pac-Man World 2, I already know the game's gonna be feature complete, and I already know the game's going to feel like a complete product, so I'm not gonna be super annoyed if they have a few extra levels scrolled away for DLC. But yeah, no, Pac-Man World 2 Repack, it looks visually gorgeous. It looks like it's gonna be fun to play. There's a local co-op mode, but it's the 3D Mario style of local co-op, where your second player controls like a little robot buddy who can shoot pellets, and it doesn't really look super engaging if you're player 2, but it's nice that they include that in general. And just the entire game just looks really good. In fact, if I'm being honest, it looks like a bigger upgrade from Pac-Man World 2 than the original Pac-Man World Repack was to World 1. So it looks like they really took their time and got this nice and polished, and so I'm looking forward to that. I really can't wait to try it. I do hope they credit the original developers. That was a big issue with the first World Repack, is that they just didn't include the original devs in the credit outside of like a special thanks to the original team. And it's like, don't do that. Actually credit the original developers. Just put their names in there. It's something that helps on resumes. It in general, it's just people deserve to be fucking credited for the work they did. So So just like make sure that's not an issue there. But yeah, Pac-Man World 2 repack, can't wait. After that came Final Fantasy Tactics: The Ivalice Chronicles, which still looks amazing. I remember seeing that at, I believe it wasn't Gamescom. Where did they show this? I believe it was the State of Play that they last showed this, and it just looks like a really nice touch up to Final Fantasy Tactics. It looks like they're not doing too much to change out the actual like gameplay, but they're retranslating it. They're making the story a lot clearer. They have new difficulty modes, and it just looks like it's a much more refined, approachable version of Final Fantasy Tactics, which is already arguably one of the best tactics games. Not arguably, inarguably one of the best tactics games of all time. So seeing it come back and seeing it come back in this kind of form feels not only exciting but promising. It feels like we are laying down the tools for like a new Final Fantasy Tactics, and that's the same thing with Pac-Man World 2. It's not just that these old games are getting remade and brought to modern audiences. It's that, hey, if these do well, we can maybe use these tools for a new Final Fantasy Tactics, for a new Pac-Man World. It's like the potential is there for something a little extra alongside. Like Pac-Man World 2, they're already doing new levels and they're already doing new difficulty modes for Final Fantasy Tactics, so hopefully that means they can eventually just use these tools to make new entries in these series if these remakes do well. And so I think that's another big part of why I'm excited. And after Final Fantasy Tactics was Persona 3 Reload, which, you know, already is out on other consoles, but it's cool to see that's coming here too. It looks like it runs pretty smoothly. I haven't checked the like frame rate, but it looks like 60 FPS. I hope it is. I hope it's not like limited to 30, but it just looks really on par with the other versions, which just feels nice. To be fair, I do think let me check Persona 3 Reload. I do believe Persona 3 Reload came out on PS4 and Xbox One. It never got a Switch 1 port, but I do believe it came out for like basically everything. Yeah, it did come out for Xbox One and it came out for PS4. So I imagine that probably helped the Switch 2 version a lot, that the fact that they had to already work with those weaker platforms meant that when they were going to the Switch 2, they were able to make this work as well. So that's good to see. Persona 3 Reload is on par with the other versions, at least from what we see now, and I'm looking forward to trying that. I have it on Steam. I've never played it. I almost wonder if I'll just double dip on Switch and play it there. That would be very silly, but at the same time, I do that a lot, where I get a game on Switch, never touch it, then get it on Steam and fucking 100% it, or vice versa, and this feels like a game that just feels very at home on a Nintendo platform. So I might double dip on this game on Switch, but that looks really cool, and I'm looking forward to trying Persona 3 Reload. After that comes Age of Imprisonment, which surprised me a little. I figured they would save this for a general direct, because it is still Zelda, right? It is still a big Nintendo IP, even if it's a third party handling it like Koei Tecmo, but then at the same time, I'm like, well, they did this before. They did this with fucking Cadence of Hyrule, the Crypt of the Necrodancer crossover. So I'm like, yeah, I guess if they're gonna do it there, why not also do it with Age of Imprisonment? And the game still looks good. It looks like another Hyrule Warriors. I loved Age of Calamity. I've been waiting for it to get a Switch 2 upgrade because I enjoy it, but the problem is it's just the hardware it's on does not help it, does not do it any favors. If they could get that game running at like a solid 60 on the Switch 2, it already runs at like a solid 30 now. If they can get a solid 60 on the Switch 2, I really think that would just like kick me into overdrive to go back and replay that game all the way through. But Age of Imprisonment looks good. I hope they're not doing another alternate universe story. I hope that this is genuinely a side story in Tears of the Kingdom, and I hope that they actually do play around with like what happened with Mineru and Rauru while Zelda was in the past. But it looks good. I'm really curious to see the roster, because if you've played Tears of the Kingdom, there's definitely a few things that were hinted at, like with those like evil Gerudo that were following Ganondorf and the two with the masks. It feels like there's a lot of untapped story potential for that era of Zelda that a Hyrule Warriors could easily like explore. No release date though, which is still a little odd to me. This game is slated for winter 2025, which makes me think it's probably going to get pushed into early 2026, probably January, February, which is fine. I think a game like this does fit in like a January month where it doesn't have like a huge amount of competition, and it can just kind of like come out, have its time to breathe, and just kind of do its own thing. So, but at the very least, I hope they say like when they have it coming out soon. I'm okay if it's January. I would just like to know. But regardless, excited for that. I hope after this game that we kind of get a few I hope after this game we get weird with the Nintendo Warriors. Like, give me a Mario Warriors, give me a Kirby Warriors. Like, Hyrule Warriors has been cool, but it's really just been Hyrule Warriors and Fire Emblem Warriors. Like, even just a Xenoblade Warriors. Like, just give me something different. But that's for the future. That's another discussion. A discussion I kind of do want to have one day. But Hyrule Warriors, Age of Imprisonment looking great. After that is EA Madden 26. again, another sports game. Afraid I don't have much to talk about there. Same with Apex Legends. EA is bringing Apex Legends to the Switch too, and yeah, it's Apex Legends. It's certainly that game. I didn't get into it much on other consoles. I doubt I'll get much into it on Switch. Apologies for skipping ahead a bit, but I just really don't care much for EA's output nowadays outside of their Star Wars project. So my apologies if I seem a little dismissive of those games. I'm sure people will be excited to play Madden or Apex Legends on their Switch 2s, and more power to them. It's just not personally my bag. What is my bag though is the next game, Chillin' by the Fire, which looks to be almost like a less of a game in the traditional sense and more of a chat room with a game attached, and I mean that as a compliment. It's a genuinely clever idea, and if it's done correctly, it could be one of the best uses of the Switch 2's camera, or well, camera functionality that you have to fucking buy a separate accessory for. But regardless, while I'm sure the core gameplay of maintaining your fire and keeping the right heat and all that will be fun in and of itself, I am much more interested in this and how it will be kind of like a cool tool to fuck around with friends, and I'm personally looking forward to trying that out with NSO. This might actually be the thing that gets me to fucking drop money on a Switch 2 camera, which is something I said I wouldn't do until now, but you know, is what it is. After that came Hella, which is this really cute game where you're playing as a mouse, and it's, I think, a 3D platformer. Admittedly, looking back at the trailer, it's kind of hard to pin down what it is exactly. It feels like something in between a 3D platformer and maybe like a Zelda-esque adventure. It looks really nice though, and I'm looking forward to trying it out. It seems like a really unique concept of just, hey, playing as this little mouse trying to survive in a giant world, swinging around on vines, feeding rabbits, feeding little flowers to rabbits so that way, you know, they'll help you out. It's a really cute idea that I hope works out in execution, because if nothing else, there seems to be some really creative minds behind this team and behind this game, so I do want to see them realize their vision, and I want to see them go on and do bigger and better things, and I really want to see Hella in general as a game that people kind of talk about, like, oh man, did you try this? Did you try this? It just seems like a fun concept. So after that was Star Wars Outlaws on Switch 2. I've already played Outlaws, but it'll be nice to see this come to Switch 2. I didn't think it was as bad as a lot of people said. It's kind of unfortunate that the sequel just got canned supposedly, but at the very least it gets a second life on the Switch 2. And then there's Chronos: The New Dawn, which is Bloober Team's big game coming to the Switch 2 day and date, which is exciting because it shows that third parties really are taking the Switch 2 seriously. Plus, not to mention too, I do love these kind of like third person horror games with a bit of action in them. It feels very Dead Space, it feels very RE4, and I have more faith in Bloober Team after the Silent Hill 2 remake. Their previous games weren't great, so I'm hoping that they took a lot of the lessons they learned on the remake and actually do make something great here. And then there's Yakuza Kiwami. I've talked about my feelings on the Yakuza series before, where like I always want to get into it and then I just never do for one reason or another. I've just never sat down to like properly play a fucking Yakuza game. I know I need to. These games look amazing. I feel like I would love them. I just never make the time for it. But I swear, within the next like 2 to 3 years, I'm going to finally just sit down and play through a bunch of these games and finally just like dig in, because these look really, really, really good. And I'm just like, why do I never give myself time to do this? Why do I never fucking play these games? But I want to do that, and this might be my reason for doing it, the Kiwami series. I also want to try Pirate. I've been meaning to go back and try Pirate Yakuza, or Yakuza Pirates in Hawaii was the game. I've been meaning to go back and try that from earlier this year. But there's that. There's the sizzle reel, which not much to talk about other than Shinobi Art of Vengeance getting a demo. I've been extremely excited for that game. I've talked about it before on the State of Play video, but it's getting a demo and it's coming out this month, and I'm like, man, Ninja Gaiden Ragebound, then Shinobi Art of Vengeance. These games are going to make excellent fucking double teams. I can't wait to try that. I'm probably going to download the demo and play it after this video, honestly, but not much else there. And then we get to the final big 2 games, The Adventures of Elliot Millennium Tales and Octopath Traveler, both from Square Enix. Octopath is about what you would expect. It's a new game in the Octopath series, and for what it's worth, it does look good. You can customize a character now, but otherwise it looks like everything from the previous Octopath games, and we're just kind of going with it. I'll admit, I've enjoyed the Octopath games in the past. They've never been like must plays for me. Like they're definitely good RPGs, but this game looks to be doing mostly a mostly similar thing, but they are adding in a few new features. Like looking back at the trailer, you seem to be able to like build towns and build like your own little settlement a la Fallout 4, and I'm like, ooh, that sounds really fun. I always like I don't know, I don't play town builder games or city builder games on their own, but when they're part of a larger game, I really like them as like a piece of a larger pie, even if I don't like them on their own. Or rather, I'm not super interested in them on their own. It's probably not fair to say I don't like them. But that's coming out this December, and that looks really good. But the thing that got me really interested was Adventures of Elliot seemingly doing like a Zelda-like in the HD 2D engine. And I'm like, oh, that's really good. A, because I just love the 2D Zelda formula, but also too, as much as I think the HD 2D engine, Square has used it like brilliantly. I have kind of been thinking like, what if we do more outside of just the RPG genre? And they've done little experiments here and there, but for the most part, it's been RPGs. So doing like a whole Zelda-esque game, doing a whole different genre in that style, in that engine, has me really, really excited. I'm like, oh, this looks like it could be fun. And you do have some RPG elements where you can raise your attack, you can raise your charge speed, but for the most part, it does look to be like a 2D Zelda dungeon crawler. And that's just piqued my interest because not only if this game is good, they'll do more games in this style, but it makes me wonder, ooh, what other games can we do in the HD 2D engine? Could we do a Metroidvania? Could we do a beat 'em up? What other utilizations could this engine actually have? And so Adventures of Elliot on its own is already an exciting looking game, but like the prospect of like going and expanding upon what the HD 2D engine can do, I think is really what's got me interested. So yeah, that's about it. Again, not like a super crazy direct, but it's a lot of little things that I think ended up just appealing to me. Pac-Man World 2, Adventures of Elliot, Monster Hunter Stories. It's all just a lot of stuff that like I personally really want to dig into and really want to play. And I think that's really what kind of like did it for me. I do wonder what this means for Nintendo's release schedule because again, Hyrule Warriors didn't get a release date. Obviously, it's a partner showcase, so we didn't hear about any first-party games. So I kind of wonder when Nintendo's going to spill the beans on games like Metroid Prime 4 or Kirby's Air Riders. There's been rumors that Prime 4 might get delayed into early next year. So I am a little perplexed as to like why they haven't done a general direct to show some of that. But for what it's worth, like the reason why this partner showcase really excites me is that it shows that Nintendo genuinely is getting that third-party support that they've always kind of eschewed, even though I think they should rely on it more. Like as games get bigger, as games take longer to develop, as games just in general become more complex, even Nintendo I don't think is going to be able to keep up the release schedule it's had throughout the Switch era. And so they are going to have to rely on third parties to fill the gaps a little more, I feel. And this direct really shows that like, no, not only are they getting, you know, games that feel very tailored to a Nintendo audience like Pac-Man World or Monster Hunter Stories, they are getting like big AAA titles. They are getting stuff like Borderlands. Some of it is coming day and date like Chronos. And I think so what really excites me is that this feels like a new prospect for the Switch, or not like a new prospect, but this really feels like the prospects for the Switch 2 be more than just, you know, the machine for Nintendo games, that this is actually going to be much more of a well-rounded, well-supported console that's going to get a wide variety of games from publishers. You know, the Switch 1 already did, and let me not downplay that. There was a lot of variety on the Switch 1, and a lot of developers supported it outside of Nintendo, especially in the independent scene. Like one of Nintendo's biggest strengths since like the Wii U era, arguably since the WiiWare days, has been its good relations with third-party publishers and has been the fact that it has a strong relation to the indie scene. But now we are seeing not just the indies, but AA games, AAA games. We are seeing Nintendo really building bridges with a lot of third-party developers, which is something that did worry me at the beginning of this generation when it came out that they were kind of withholding dev kits to certain companies when they weren't sure about who they wanted to send dev kits to. It felt as if the Switch 2 was going to be a little insular as a console ecosystem. So now seeing it get all of these games and seeing, you know, plenty of usual partners there too, like Capcom and Square, but also seeing like, you know, EA actually bothering to support the console, even if I'm not huge into their output, seeing 2K support it, you know, seeing again games like Chronos coming the same day as other consoles. It excites me because it feels like the Switch 2 is really going to be in the running for third-party games, and I'm excited for that. And so I think that's why I kind of appreciated this direct a little more than most people. Again, I can see why a lot of people found it boring. I can see why a lot of people said, oh, that was it. But for me, I think this really shows that there is like a very bright future ahead for the Switch 2. But that's all I wanted to say. Overall, I enjoyed the showcase. I'm looking forward to a lot of these games, and I really hope that Nintendo does talk about some of their first-party titles. But if they kind of go mum for the rest of the year, I would still be okay because a lot of these games really do look fantastic, and it really does look like Nintendo is going to get proper third-party support that I think it needs a little more than even Nintendo themselves realize. But that's all I wanted to say. Just get a quick video out detailing my thoughts as I work on larger projects. There is obviously a Donkey Kong Bonanza review in the work. I'm just trying to put my thoughts into words because man, that game is truly one of a kind. It's beautiful. I love it. And I can't wait to put together a proper review for that. But that's all for today. Sorry I was a little late on this. Y'all have a wonderful day, and be sure to crank up the noise.